Stavatti page. I haven't promoted our Stavatti page in the past hardly at all. And we want you to care as much as our enemies do. So if we only get like 4 comments and one of them is Lilith, Mother of Demons, and we're trying to save the world with a firefighting aircraft and we're accused of profiting off of a catastrophe, no, it's like, this would be a really good thing to have so that this kind of stuff doesn't keep happening. So again, we want you to care as much as our enemies do. So go to Stavatti Aero and David_Wilcock, subscribe. And if you ever see wild, toxic hatred on the page, then you know where it's coming from. There's no reason to think it's anybody else. This guy has very consistently demonstrated a pattern. And, you know, I don't know what else to do here, except we got to move forward with the federal government and with terrorism charges. And it's a big, big deal. We're getting at least 2 attorneys involved in this. And he is going to receive a lawsuit. There's no question whatsoever. We've gone way too far down the road. The only reason it hasn't already happened simply is we could not afford it. That's really all it was. But we've already put together a lot of evidence and we're working up the dossier. We are in contact with federal agencies and it is moving forward. So you're going to learn about all this stuff coming up. You're going to find out everything. I don't know what else to do. You know, we can't just ignore it. Obviously, it's very, very bizarre and very scary, but you know, whatever. Okay, so congratulations. You ruined a bunch of our deals. You kept me poor for a really, really long time. Congratulations. But, you know, we're going to do what we have to do. Anyway, at the same time, I want to say the election result has been incredibly good for us. And the inauguration happened without incident, which I'm very happy about. We were warned.
So, guys, this is a straight from David Wilcox's live stream earlier today. It just ended about 4 hours ago. I'm just playing it for you. And he refers to this troll named Steven, says that he's the one behind all these charges. He makes a bunch of claims here. And, you know, I watched personally on David's channel, him get a number of super chats, you know, supporting him to fight this troll and the litigation that he's going to be bringing. Apparently, he also says that he's like 7 figures in debt to the IRS, that he's working with these investors into Stavatti, that are going to get him out of debt and finally give him some money so he can be able to actually file these lawsuits. And, you know, the things that he said on this channel and the things that this troll is doing, I just figured I would invite this character who, you know, hasn't been named other than Steve. I'll give you his last name finally. And Steve is here. So we're going to invite Steve on the show and see what the heck Steve's problem is with David and why he has this obsession with David, doing all these videos, trolling David and going after, you know, David in his personal life and whatnot. So here to join me is none other. Well, he's typing away furiously here. Welcome to the show, Steven. And we are live. Are you there? Are you there, Steven? I'm going to keep playing this video. We wait for Steve.
Alliance post describing a self-proclaimed prophet who said he was seeing that there was going to be a bomb attack, very similar to what we were just threatened with. And it said he foresaw large trucks with 50-gallon drums and a dump truck packed with fertilizer, strategically hidden.
So he's talking about the
underground garages ready to detonate. He also saw coordinated strikes against the tower, golf courses, and another direct attempt on his life. Well, now I understand one thing that I've done myself a disservice, actually, that I don't make pre-made videos. I'm only doing live streams. So you got to go to my page, which is Dave Wilcock 333. Then you got to click on the button at the top that says live. That brings up all the shows. You look up Shift is Hitting the Fan. And this is where we did a comprehensive expose without giving away the name other than the first name, but showing you a bunch of posts and long-term data on this situation. So again, we really were willing to forgive over and over and over again. We've overlooked so much stuff. The police have been begging me to file this already. They said, David, you really need to do this. It's like, well, you know, we don't have the money, really. That's what it comes down to. Lawsuits are going to cost, you know, you're going to pay $20,000 up front for the retainer to get it going. So you got to have money to do that. Well, we're about to. So, you know, it was only a matter of time before somebody was going to finally break through, and everything is going in our favor now. So, you know, the posts, if you think about that letter of the alphabet that I've got kind of stylized right here, right? Those posts started in 2017. I've been talking to you guys about this stuff since 2009. Same thing. We're up to 5,000 viewers at 45 minutes. That's terrific. Alive and Thriving just donated, as you can see right there. And glory to God, peace on earth, goodwill toward men and women. 20 likes. And then Ed Creeder donated $123. You're doing God's work with love and light. We all appreciate you very, very much. Thank you, Ed Creeder. That is a very generous donation. And along with you and Roger Zubarak, you guys are like my SEAL team. So get that guy a car. Ed Creeder, we got to get you a sports car. And it might look like the picture that I showed you, just perhaps. Anyway, thank you guys for helping out. I don't want to be like Elvis and start giving out a bunch of Rolls Royces, but when people have been this loyal, you know, we'll find a way to make it good. So back in 2009, I first heard that, wait a minute, you're telling me that there's people in the military who are meeting in secret rooms called SCIFs, Sensitive Compartment Information Facilities, and that they're aware that there is this highly evil force that actually is into Satanism. Now, this is the craziest thing. I mean, Satanism would seem to be the most fringy thing you could imagine.
When does he call me out? I thought that was right there after he called those out, because he reads a chat for me. I didn't super chat him, but I did post a chat. Did I skip right over it? I know it was right around here, but he read my chat live on air with 5,000 people watching and called out my channel, Alien Scientist, by name. And I'm trying to find where that was. I was watching it live, so it didn't have a timestamp for when he said that exactly. So I didn't exactly see that, but I would like people to Steve probably has the timestamp for that. Maybe I'm not sure, but anyways, I'm waiting for Steve to join. I don't know what's going on with Steve. He just appeared here and was typing, and then he disappeared. So maybe he chickened out and is worried. You know, he's really scared of David Wilcock and doesn't want to get sued. So we'll wait for Steven for a little bit, I guess, and to return here. It looks like Steve has chickened out on us. So, oh wait, he just sent me an email. He said he has no audio for some reason. All right. Well, that's a funny excuse, huh, Steven? Well, we can't. We look forward to Steven getting his audio fixed so he can join us back here. Let's continue listening to this live stream. I want to see if the part that I
imagine. Who the hell would want to do something like that? Who would want to be into, you know, demons but no. Actually, it turns out the big reveal that we're all waiting to hear about is that, oh my God, people that we thought we could trust, people that we thought we loved, people that if we saw them in person, we would cry. We'd think of them like we're meeting a god almost. That's kind of how people get it when they're around celebrities. They have this gushing reaction. Well, no, it turns out that the people that you thought you could trust and the people you thought you loved are actually very evil, very dangerous. And they're all, many of them, not all of them, but there are many, many, you know, and we're talking millions of people who are actually involved in this, and it is extremely secret. And the Alliance has known about this since Howard Hughes in the 1950s, researched why he was losing aerospace contracts. I sure know what that feels like. And he found out that the people that were blocking him from getting any deals were involved in this weird cult. And he used couriers, female sex workers, to get this information out of people. They would sleep with them. They'd have pillow talk, and then the guy would reveal something, and she'd go and bring it back to Howard Hughes. This led to a 3-inch thick binder called The Plan that described how they were going to take the country back. And Eisenhower was aware of it. It was being built during his time, started to be built. And then Kennedy was aware of it. And this also was greatly augmented by the arrival of a human extraterrestrial called Valiant Thor. That's the name he gave himself. He looked normal, but his lifespan would be, I guess, 900 years. and he had strange organ systems. He had a 4-chambered heart. I think he had 4 lobes to his lungs instead of 2. Very strange stuff like that. So not a normal body at all, but looks completely normal and human when you meet him in person. And he spent
And then now my audio is not working now. Sorry, I had. All right, there's Steven. He's
There
back.
we go. I'm sorry about that. I don't know. Listen, I don't know what happened, but once I stopped paying StreamYard, all of a sudden, like there's a permission problem or something, and I have no audio in StreamYard. I just never figured it out because I switched to a different software. So I didn't realize that I might have that issue with you connecting. So I apologize, but I'm here.
All right. Now that you're here, I really want to get into your channel and some of the things in this case, because David Wilcock has said a lot of things in that video today, and a lot of other. So he also said that he needed money. He said he was going to the police, but then he said he needed money, and once he has money, he'll be able to file these lawsuits. But you don't, in order to file a charges with the police, that doesn't cost any money.
Yeah, ever. Well, he has a problem. He doesn't understand the difference between civil litigation and a criminal case. And just for the benefit of your viewers, and in case they're unaware, a lot of this started a few months ago. David Wilcock had a dog that was dying a slow death, and he was mentioning like the dog shitting all over the floor and bleeding and all this stuff. So some of those crystal hippie bitches that watch his show started getting concerned that he was neglecting the dog. And so somebody, they filed with the Colorado Animal Protection or something. They filed like a complaint. And so they responded to the complaint by going to visit Mr. Wilcock at his home. And then he didn't answer the door, so they taped a business card on his door. And so, but dumb as David Wilcock is, he didn't realize that those animal control officers had body cams on when they visited his home. So he goes on his stream the very next Sunday, and he tells everybody, 500,000 subscribers, that I called animal control, and then I got him swatted by the police. And he said it like 25 times. Steven got me swatted. They left this card. Steven got me swatted, got me swatted. And you know me, like at first I was just kind of shocked. I'm like, Jesus, like, did he really get swatted? But knowing that he lies all the time, he lied about bomb threats to contact in the desert and increased security. So I figured this was an exaggeration. I went to the Colorado Sheriff's Office and I said, yeah, the body cam footage is in that top video. So I went to the Colorado Sheriff's Office and I got the body cam footage. And so in the body cam footage, we see that it's just that this animal control people went and knocked on his door. There was no swatting. And during that same stream, he claimed that the police were investigating me. The Boulder County Sheriff's Office were cooperating. I live in or near Philadelphia. He claimed that they were cooperating with the Philadelphia police. This is the actual swatting event. No swatting took place. So, he said he was getting me arrested. He was suing me. This is a couple of months ago. And so when I go to the Colorado Sheriff's Department, I got what I call a chatty Cathy on the phone. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like somebody's just bored at work, and they were very interested in this, and they knew who David Wilcock from Ancient Aliens was. So she was very helpful, and she said, oh, I was just trying to see if there was a report. And she said, oh, there's better than a report. There's body cam footage. Would you like to request it? And it costs like, I don't remember, like $100 to get all the reports and the body cam footage. But we got the body cam footage from every officer that was there and proved there was no swatting. That didn't happen. And further, when we filed to get all the police reports concerning David, if there was any reports that he made against me for a criminal complaint, they would be in there. They didn't exist. So, and I have context. My father happened to be very close friends. His best friend was a Philadelphia cop, one of our neighbors. He worked in sex crimes for 24 years or something like that. So, you know, I went to him. He's a friend of my family. And I said, is there a way we could find out if there's any open investigations between Colorado Sheriff's Department and Philadelphia Police? We confirmed there was none. So David Wilcock is accusing me of stalking him, slandering him, getting him swatted. He goes on his public live stream to 500,000 subscribers. First of all, he tells everybody I'm a Satan worshiper. And his only evidence for that was that I wore a devil mask on my show, UFO Lucifer, you know, it's like a character. And then he told everybody I was a child predator and that I was getting sued by him and I was getting arrested by the Colorado Sheriff's Department and the Philadelphia Police. None of that happened. So this is the so-called swatting event. There was no swatting.
And you weren't the one who called the
these
animal control officers to his house?
In fact, the people that actually, there was emails sent to the Boulder County Animal Control.
Oh,
and
really?
So, in fact, people were so pissed at him about possibly abusing the dog that they emailed me and said, I'm the person, I emailed this to the animal control because I was concerned about the dog. So he falsely accused me of contacting animal control. I have on the record statements from the people that actually filed those complaints that match the reports from the sheriff's department. It wasn't me. I didn't make any complaints to the Boulder County Sheriff's Department or animal control, period. So what we have is David Wilcock is lying again. In fact, I made a song out of that. David Wilcock is lying again because it's just so ridiculous. So
you don't worship Satan, and you did not call. You did not send the email.
And I'm also not a child M. You know, I know YouTube. We got to be careful with the P word or the M word.
Right. Yes.
And the thing that you know me pretty good for quite a while. You know, I'm a family man. I have 2 children. This guy is telling 500,000 subscribers that I'm a child R person or a child predator. And so this stuff has just escalated from there, I guess. But it's pretty crazy because I know from somebody that grifted with him for a long time that his general policy is to just ignore all the critics, ignore all the haters. But I really must have got in his head. Oh, so this is interesting. So he didn't know, but he calls into the animal control after they went to his house to find out, oh, you know, what's going on? You left this card saying, call me. He didn't know the call was being recorded. And in this call, he says all this stuff that I'm a predator and that, you know, I'm stalking him and he's going to have to sue me. And I'm really famous. I'm on 100 episodes of Ancient Aliens. And it's kind of a comical phone call. He didn't know he was being recorded here, but she had a body cam on and I got those along with all of the other evidence that just proves the guy's just making stuff up. It's ridiculous. And he constantly keeps saying that he only has one critic or one hater. And you know, that's really not true. You know, he's got a lot of critics.
You don't have multiple accounts and you're not like...
No. In fact, I invited him to subpoena Twitter records. I've only ever had one Twitter. It's at Stephen Cambian on Twitter or X now. I don't have multiple accounts. In fact, in one of the cases where he claimed I was making death threats to him on Twitter, and what his idea of death threats is people tweet mean things at him, like call him a scumbag or a con artist. He calls that a death threat. But in one of the cases, I was able to prove that I was at the cabin with no internet and in the middle of the wilderness at the time that he's claiming that I'm, you know, tweet bombing him or something. It's really kind of ridiculous. So in this latest, I noticed you were in his live stream today. Now he's saying he's getting me arrested again, but this time for making death threats, this time for trying to extort him, which is interesting because he claims that the person trying to extort him wants cryptocurrency. I don't even own a crypto wallet. So why would I try to extort somebody and then tell them to pay me in a payment form that I can't even accept? You know, it's kind of ridiculous. But today was another escalation where he's doubling down, saying he's getting me arrested. Oh, and also last week he said that they filled out federal police reports and local police reports, and he's so stupid that he doesn't know that those would be public records. So I went to every FBI field office near his home, near this Christopher Beskar, the CEO, near their home. I went to the local police and tried to get any police records mentioning David Wilcock, Stavatti Aerospace, Christopher Beskar, or my name. There are none. So he's just lying to 500,000 subscribers saying that he filled out police reports and federal police reports. They would be public. There are none. So I kind of am at the point where like, show us your receipts, bitch. You know, I don't think you have any. But it was disheartening to see today that while he's lying about all of these death threats against him, somebody super chatted him $500. So, you know, I really think that this is a form of fraud. If there's really no death threats and there's no police reports and he's telling people there is while he's collecting money, I would consider that a form of the consumer fraud myself, but I'm no lawyer or whatever, you know.
So I'm trying to understand what's going on. So people that aren't familiar with my channel or who I am and what I do, I have a physics background and I investigate claims of anti-gravity and free energy. I work with a venture capitalist firm that vets these kinds of technologies for investors. That's what I've been doing for the past year or so, is trying to vet a lot of these technologies and help bring a lot of disclosure out to the scientific community by, you know, interviewing the scientists who actually worked on these programs. We started the whole APEC conference, which is, you know, the Alt Propulsion Engineering Conference. We've interviewed, you know, all the scientists who've ever talked about reverse engineering UFOs or building UFOs or UFO technology. I became interested in David Wilcock because he was talking about building UFOs with his company called Stavatti Aerospace, which you know, we were looking into and we're asked to look into for some of our investors and other people. So we were looking into that, and again, I'm not sure what exactly they do there. Mark was up, you know, going to, you know, drop right by Canada. He was on his way there and was driving right by Stavatti Aerospace and decided to stop in and check out, you know, what they're doing there and see if they're, you know, we can get any information from this you know, my job is to document the history of this. I just want to, anyone who's involved in anti-gravity or aerospace and getting this technology out to the public, I'm here to, you know, document that all and try to, you know, push the technology and the science forward as best as we can. And not quite sure what's going on with Stavatti Aerospace or this technology. We paid $333 to take Wilcock's class with we had a number of our, you know, we all sat in on it. We paid for one thing and we had like
so you had real scientists look at it. What was that like?
I can't play any of it because it's proprietary, but a lot of it was you know, the Ed it talked about the remember the guy oh, what the heck, Eric Lathwaite.
Oh, sure.
It started with the Eric Lathwaite stuff. You know, talked about Professor Eric Lathwaite's research into anti-gravity. You know, he's the inventor of the maglev and was, you know, obsessed with magnetism and gravity and, you know, finding a connection.
Well, during that course, when he was marketing that course, he actually said, if you buy my course, you'll be able to do it too, in reference to for them
Right,
to do
right.
any
He said he
gravity.
was gonna. He had like the insider secrets, and this guy talked to people from the secret space program and all these whistleblowers apparently. So
And
I had a lot of people
he
saying, this
claims
guy's
that
got a huge following. He gets 5,000, 6,000 people watching him on live streams. He's got 500,000 followers on YouTube. You got to check out what this guy's talking about and what he's doing. And so, we did, and I'd really, wish there was like a Q&A or some, more in-depth talks on that kind of stuff, because it just didn't seem, it seemed like they were using a lot of, just recycled, outdated, old anti-gravity stuff.
from the internet.
And
Yeah, he had nothing proprietary, nothing
right. There was
new.
nothing, no work that was done. It was all just publicly available information that they had really recycled. And so I was like, what do you guys actually have? Or are you guys, it's really, it's a little confusing, but, so I don't know what's going on with that, but,
Well, he did say he said 3 years ago that they would have a working prototype within a year. That was 3 years ago. And also,
yeah,
you said
I remember that.
You don't really know what's going on with Stavatti. I can give you a very quick update. Stavatti is being sued by one of their previous investors who invested $1 million and was supposed to get back $5 million. And it turns out that he didn't get even his principal investment back, the first $1 million that he gave them. He was supposed to get back $5 million, so he sued them. And in the court documents, he says that he believes that Stavatti Aerospace is a investment scam and a Ponzi scheme. And in the answer, the CEO, Christopher Beskar, basically says, we were going to pay back that investor, but we were waiting for new investment to come in so we could pay the old investor. He said that
that's
in
a
court
Ponzi
document.
scheme. That's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That's the technical definition of a Ponzi scheme. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, and it gets wilder. There, you see that picture with the two girls, one on the bed? It turns out that David Wilcock's wife made what can only be described as cucumber porn, in which she's teaching women to cleanse their vajayjays by peeling a cucumber and dilling themselves. It's too hot for YouTube. You can't play it. It's not in that video, but there's just a still from that video there. So we did a story on that, and also
wow,
Stavatti Aerospace.
Check that out.
Stavatti Aerospace has never in 30 years produced a single product or service in the aerospace industry at all. And in fact, the court documents in Dmitriev versus Stavatti, anybody can look this up, it's public records. In those court documents, they admitted that their only income, Stavatti's only income is a few $1,000s a month from a garbage company that stores garbage dumpsters at their Niagara, New York hangar facility. So it's not looking good. And also, there's been several requests for liens to be placed. They're being sued by creditors. They had a sprinkler company do a whole bunch of work, an electrical company do a whole bunch of work, to the tune of, I think they're being sued for around $500,000 in total across all the different vendors that they took services from, entered into contracts for payment with, and then never paid for the services that they rendered. So it's not looking good for Stavatti Aerospace. And but we have sort of a joke video that we made, which is David Wilcock for years saying that they're getting funding any week. And I believe what happened is that, according to David Wilcock, he invested $1.5 million or something like that into the Stavatti, enabling them to buy that hangar. And I think, and I freely admit it's speculation on my part, I think that Wilcock is another victim of what has been described as a Ponzi scam and investment scheme. I think they took $1.5 million from him, and now they keep stringing him along, that they're going to get a loan and he'll be able to be paid back. We're going to get these huge... He's talking about, people are going to invest $2 billion and all of this.
He said this guy, like 42 million on the stream today, I believe, or I was trying to.
Yeah, it's always that. They're getting these huge deals every week. They're getting huge deals, but nothing ever happens.
But then he also accused you of like causing these other deals to fall through, that they were going to get investment money in that.
Which is interesting, because we didn't find out about that court case with the investor until that court case was 6 months old. So I couldn't have been the cause of that investor saying, this is a scam, I'm going to sue them and get my money back. And that's essentially what Wilcock is claiming. And also, he attributes every mean tweet Every account on Twitter that says something nasty to him, he says is me using a fake account. And I'm here to tell you, I've talked to some of those people on the phone, video called some of them. It's just people that don't like him and think that he's a con artist and a scammer. So they say mean things to him on the internet. But somehow he's created this mythical villain for his dumb as rocks followers. That first he was saying I was
just
Stephen
weird
from
to me,
Canada.
Stephen, because like here I am thinking that you're this big troll going, you know, attacking Wilcox for all this stuff, you know, but like he won't even mention your name on air.
No, and that's
so
my big
people
thing
can't.
is, as I always say my name, bitch. Like, if you're going to accuse me of being a Satan worshiping child predator, then say my name. Like, what kind of a weasel is going to accuse somebody of heinous things like that? Claim that I'm a criminal. I'm under criminal investigation. He's going to sue me. And, you know, you think that he would have learned from Corey Good that suing an online critic is really a bad idea, because then they get subpoena power. They get to depose you for 8 or 10 hours and ask whatever questions they want to. I would probably destroy him if it came to a legal case, because I do know his history. You know, his history is abysmal of using fake government insiders. We know that they're fake. Corey Good admitted under oath that he made up all his stories. David Wilcock spent 5 years grifting off of secret space stories with Corey Good. And then we've got Pete Peterson, who he took part in my opinion, took part in a PayPal, or excuse me, GoFundMe scam that raised $60,000 based on total lies. That was a routine house that was getting foreclosed on, that Pete Peterson didn't even have his name on the deed. It was his girlfriend's home. And the house had already been foreclosed on, and they framed it in such a way as like, donate to this GoFundMe so we can save his house. The house was already foreclosed on. Then there was the Emery Smith PayPal donation scam, in which David Wilcock claimed to Emery Smith, one of his other fake government insiders, was under deep state attack, and he was showing like pictures of him in the hospital. So it turns out that Emery Smith was actually in the hospital for alcohol poisoning after crashing his car drunk. There was no deep state attack, and they collected $50,000 in PayPal donations. And next we
Isn't
get
that
to
for
this.
real?
Yeah, we've documented. And see, the thing that gets me with him is that if I'm going to accuse somebody of something, I tend to be super meticulous and very, very careful in my research. So we've researched all this stuff and presented it. If you go all the way to the top too, this is one that you may remember.
I thought these guys were real secret space program insiders.
Well, the reason that I knew that Stavatti Aerospace was probably very, very shady, if not a scam, is as soon as I saw this, because the second person there, who's the chief operating officer, his name is Bill McEwen. And
Yeah.
I remembered him because I was a huge fan of Commodore, and specifically the Amiga computers. And so what happened is, after Amiga went bankrupt and Commodore went bankrupt, they sold the assets first to Gateway Computers, and this Bill McEwen worked in some capacity for Gateway. And then somehow Bill McEwen bought the intellectual property of the Amiga computer system and operating system, and for a decade promised new hardware, promised a new operating system, and he never delivered anything. He did these scammy things like, you know, give us $50 and you'll get a t-shirt like Amiga Rising from the Ashes, and then nobody got their t-shirts. He's a very flawed individual. And also, that was another one of those pie in the sky things. They were claiming that they were going to sponsor a soccer stadium, and they would call it the Amiga Stadium, and he never came through with the money. So he left this team.
Who are all these guys? I mean, this is a lot of old white guys on this firm. Oh, there's one black dude.
Yes, but according to Stavatti in court documents, none of these people are paid. They're just all volunteering their time because they know the promise of Stavatti is going to be a multi-billion-dollar company someday, and someday they'll get paid. We're talking about a company that has been in business for 30 years, the entire 30 years of which, to the best of my knowledge, has been soliciting investment capital from private investors and whatever. They've never produced a single product or service in 30 years. They've been caught lying about having wind tunnel contracts with the government that they didn't have. They got caught lying and saying they were developing laser weapons for the United States military. All they do, to the best of my knowledge and recollection here, is post really cool pictures of super futuristic airplanes that they've never made. They've never made them. So, you know, what's going on here is, according to some, David Wilcock gave them all this money so that he could become a board member, and they gave him a fancy title. I think it's Director of Exotic Technology, and he would be working on free energy and anti-gravity, and they were going to help him develop hovercar technology. They haven't developed anything. They have no products, no services. They've got a lot of flashy, you know, pictures of things, but I've been able to verify they've never built a single flying prototype.
They have these airplanes that they show these airplanes and designs and stuff. Is this just stuff that they drew on paper? And
yeah, and maybe they have David Wilcock he calls them prototypes. He says, oh, this is our SM-57 prototype. They're 3D printed toys. They look like GI Joe toys. They look like Cobra toys because they're all, you know, black and futuristic. And so, yeah, they may have these designs for all I know, but they've never produced a real working product or service. And, you know, I can only relate it to my own business. You know, I have a small technology business, and I import. For a while, I was importing things like Arduino microcontrollers and reselling them. So maybe I didn't produce products myself. We had some designs for certain products we never got off the market, but we had some form of business and we had some form of income that we could show people. And I don't understand how you have a company for 30 years and you have nothing to show for that 30 years of working on that company. So I'm not really sure. You know, I know for a fact, according to David Wilcock, he gave them 1.5 million. And another investor, for sure, according to court documents, gave them $1 million. So that means they've had $2.5 million. They entered into this contract with Niagara, the local community, where they got all these tax breaks, but they were supposed to create 400 local jobs that were all supposed to be $100,000 or more a year. They didn't create a single job, and the local community pulled all of those tax breaks. They no longer have them. So, you know, Stavatti is largely like is the perfect company for David Wilcock because it's, in my opinion, it's smoke and mirrors. It looks good on the website, right? But if you've been running an airplane company and you say you're there to design and manufacture aircraft, but you don't even have like a single prototype that you can show people flying that you built, then I would consider your company a complete and total failure. But maybe I'm too judgmental. I don't know. And also, David Wilcock has said a lot of wacky stuff about this CEO, Christopher Beskar, including that he worked at Area 51 on top secret projects. He built 3,000 spaceships for the secret space program. And, you know, I don't think there's any proof of any of that. And also, one of the funniest stupid stories is that Christopher Beskar said, David Wilcock said that, you know, Beskar armor from the Mandalorian, that metal armor that's like resistant to lightsabers, Beskar armor that the Mandalorian wears and all the Mandalorians wear. David Wilcock claimed that that was named after Christopher Beskar because he designed spaceships for the Star Wars prequels. We checked on both of those things, completely and totally false. Beskar armor was not named after this guy, and nobody at Lucasfilm ever heard of him. He did not work on the prequels. Everybody that worked on the prequels, they're in the credits. They're on the IMDb page. No Christopher Beskar anywhere. So I think this is all theater for David Wilcock's dumb as rocks followers. Like, donate money to me. Look, I'm making hover cars. You know, we've got a hangar. We're going to start building these hover cars and this exotic technology.
Why do you think that he has 500,000 subscribers if he's so, you know?
Well, if you look at the numbers, I think that he probably bought a lot of them, because if you've got 500,000 subscribers but you're only getting 5,000 live viewers, today he had 44,000 for a large portion of his live streams. And a few years ago,
he was shadow banning too. You know, I have 100,000 subscribers and I only have like 300 people watching this. So
yeah, maybe you're right, but I just don't think the numbers are good. And there also is some evidence that he was botting for a while.
botting. Oh my God, you can pay those paid. I get emails from these companies that say like if you pay them, they'll boost.
I get them all the time. They'll get you live
views and
viewers,
all
they'll
that
boost your
stuff.
numbers, but you could lose your channel over it.
Yeah.
I would never suggest doing that.
I've never
There
done
also
that.
was a time
Ever.
when one time David Wilcock's chat, all of the chat or most of the user IDs were like hot chick for you and all these porn names, and then all of a sudden it switched to like crystal hippie girl and like more appropriate names for what would be his audience. It's like they messed up with the bots one time, and he did have a cozy relationship with the Edge of Wonder Boys, which were directly working for the cult Falun Gong, who owns bot farms. So yeah, but I really, this has been kind of an escalation, him directly. The thing that bothers me is he's not saying my name, but everybody knows he's talking about me. He'll say Steven once in a while, you know?
Right.
And so,
Are they still around? I remember those edges.
yeah, they are still around, and they have something new since they got banned off of YouTube for being Chinese misinformation.
Really?
Yeah. And so they were working directly for Falun Gong, who also runs Epic Times, the newspaper.
Yeah,
And
they also do the Shunyun.
yeah, and they're a Chinese cult basically that believes in aliens. They believe in a lot of wacky things, like black people go to a different heaven. So real love and light, yeah. But today was one of those days where like people are sending me clips and stuff, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this guy is saying some pretty wacky shit now, you know?
Yeah, this is. I mean, I'm just blown away. I thought you were going to come on here and we were going to depose you, and you were going to just sit here and incriminate yourself. That's what David Wilcock said. You know,
that's another thing. It's so ridiculous to suggest that a guy with a wife and 2 children, and you know, not to garner sympathy, but one of my children is nonverbal autistic, and I'm like his 24/7 caretaker. Like I'm the only person that can handle him.
Yeah,
he's getting big now. He's 12, but he's like almost 6 foot tall, you know. And for anybody to suggest that I would risk my freedom and risk getting arrested just to threaten somebody, it's absolutely ridiculous. I would never do that. And you know, we've proven time and time again that he just lies, and the boldness of the lies is what gets me. And I guess one of the things that bothers me is that his followers are so stupid, they just blindly believe anything he says. And because he's not naming me, you know, it's not like they get to go to my channel to see the reality, but a lot of them are finding me
crazy.
anyway.
If this is, you know, if what you're saying is true, I mean, if what you're saying is a lie, then obviously he has, you know, all the grounds to sue you and take you to court, and we'll, you know.
But, well, there's some problems with that, though. First of all, I have an LLC, and every one of my shows is clearly marked that it's produced by my company. So he can't sue me personally. He has to sue my company, and that company has $40 in the bank account. So good luck with that. And even still, there's a few things in Pennsylvania. There's a very strong anti-SLAPP lawsuit legislation. So I could get a dismissal very, very easily. And also, there's a very strong journalist shield law in Pennsylvania, which means even under threat of subpoena or arrest, I don't have to reveal my sources at all. So, you know, I could easily say that any of the things that I've said that he's found objectionable were brought to me by sources, and no, I'm not going to reveal my sources. And that'd be the end of that lawsuit. But I've already talked to a lawyer, and there's a very strong argument to be made for a countersuit of defamation based on him calling me a child predator and a Satan worshiper with no evidence, claiming that I called the Colorado Sheriff's Department. You know, he seems to forget that he has to prove these things. Like if he goes in court and says, this guy contacted animal control and filed false complaints against me, he has to prove with like IP numbers and with a subpoena to my internet service provider that I actually sent those emails. He can't prove that. We know who sent the emails. It wasn't me. So, you know, I think this is all just theater, and him, you know, basically like feel sorry for me and send me money. And recently he said, oh, last year I only made $258,000. It was barely enough to survive. Yeah. I made a song about it.
Wow,
But we took him saying that and put it to
$258,000.
music.
You know, that's more than I think our investors gave us for the research that we've done, and we got like a ton of research done and equipment bought. That's
Well,
insane.
you actually got something. Apparently, Stavatti Aerospace got $2.5 million, and all they got is an empty airplane hangar that's falling apart, literally.
And they store dumpsters in it, according
Yes, garbage dumpsters. Yeah.
Found. This is it. This is mind blowing information, Steve. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing this with you. And I'm gonna just leave it at this, I think, and let I'm gonna contact Stavatti Aerospace and see if them will talk to us. I know that David Wilcock is their exotic technologies officer or whatever. So if he's in charge of all the technology side of this, I don't know what to do, but we're here to document it. We have the APEC conference. If anyone,
well,
science,
he has claimed that they are going to use Salvador Pais patents to make these hover cars, and the thing is, they don't own those patents. So maybe they could license them, but I've checked, they haven't yet. Nobody's licensed those patents. They belong to the U.S. Navy, and the Navy's not giving out licenses.
He's got
on
some generous donors giving him a lot of money to fight the trolls, to fight you, Stephen.
Yeah, I saw he got $500 from somebody.
One guy, today, on the live stream.
Yeah. And to me, that's a form of fraud.
I got $500 once, and it was actually Colin Grant here that gave it to me, man. So I don't know, that's pretty amazing stuff. I don't know what to make of that. Do you have anything else on Wilcox that you definitely want to share with the audience and the
No,
live
I think
chat?
we've about covered it. I mean, I think that this guy. Oh, the one thing that we should just mention quickly is that his entire grift for the last couple of years has been that he's in direct communication with the Archangel Michael. And the Archangel Michael is giving him secret and sacred knowledge that the Archangel Michael then apparently wants him to put behind a $333 paywall. And some of his predictions are all going to come crashing down by my birthday, which is May 31st, because he said that the Archangel Michael, and he's documented this on the show, we're going to have open alien contact by May of 2025, and we're going to have ascension by May of 2025. Which makes no sense, because why do we need hover cars if we're all going to be able to levitate and have superpowers when the ascension comes? But it is what it is. So I think he's getting very desperate because he's got a very short window now in which to grift off of his latest grift, and then he's going to have to go away and come back with a new grift, which is what he always does. He got you guys with the anti-gravity free energy grift, and then everybody realized that he didn't have anything good after they paid. So he went away for a little while and he came back with the Archangel Michael grift. But interestingly, I've talked to ministers, I've talked to Catholic priests, I've talked to, Jewish rabbis, I've talked to Muslim imams. And there's one thing that all the Abrahamic religions agree on, and all of these people have told me, and that is that angels do not know the future unless the Almighty God himself wills them to know the future. So essentially what David Wilcock is saying is that Almighty God himself told the Archangel Michael the future, and then told him to give those future predictions to David Wilcock, a decades-long grifter, New Age guy, so that he could sell this secret and sacred knowledge for $333. And of course, there's signs that this guy is truly just cracking up. One of the funniest things is that he told all his followers, we have clips of it, that the Archangel Michael told him that in order to get telekinetic superpowers, he had to take baths in his own piss. And that he did that, and he got telekinetic superpowers. And in a dream, he claims he somehow stopped the assassin's bullet from hitting Trump. He moved the bullet with his telekinetic superpowers.
Wow, so we have David to save Trump.
It's just getting so stupid.
If that bullet had just gone a little bit, to the right, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Well, that I don't know, man. This is all very very shocking, to say the least. And you also mentioned this whole thing with the sorry, I wanted to relate this to another current event, because there's all this stuff going on with the drones. There's the new egg whistleblowers that have come out of Ross Coulthart. What is, let's change gears, because I know that you cover Ross Coulthart and some of these other channels on here. I've been trying to get Ross to come on as a guest. I don't think he's going to be ready or willing to do that.
Not after you let me say my piece on him, he won't. Yeah, Ross is.
Yeah, why don't you?
Ross is an interesting character, and I dug very deeply into him. And what we find out is that Ross was once a respected journalist in Australia, but then I think he got like a trip to the big time in the form of 60 Minutes Australia. And apparently he really needed to deliver a big story. So he comes up with this story accusing a whole bunch of members of British Parliament of being child predators. And his only evidence for this was a complete and total liar wackadoo who was also suing people, trying to get money out of them, claiming that he was SA'd by them. And so the whole story came crashing down as completely and totally fake. Some people say Ross got fired from 60 Minutes Australia for that terrible story. Media Watch slammed it as completely untrue, sensationalistic, and garbage. And when Media Watch slams a story, you know it's fake. Like, they don't do that willy-nilly. So after that, he sort of finds his way into the UFO community. And we've had fake story after fake story after fake story. One of them was he overhyped another documentary saying that they had conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. And then they cut to a shot of Michio Kaku, all confirmed by this world-renowned scientist. And they cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. It turns out they scraped some ball that some guy claimed was alien, and they didn't even do the analysis on it. And for 5 years now, everybody's been busting his balls. Like, where's the ball shavings analysis? You said you had conclusive proof of alien technology. Not only did he not have conclusive proof, he had no proof. And then there was another instance, another story that he over sensationalized.
I told Ross that. I said, look, we have labs, we have SEM, access to scanning electron microscopes, some spectrometers.
Yeah, that'll get to the answers in 20 minutes. Yeah.
And we could get this stuff analyzed for you on an independent lab, right here, in Massachusetts.
He didn't want to do that, did he?
He has not agreed to that yet. No. It's unfortunate, man,
because he knows that
our hands on some
that
alien
that thing was a commercial ball valve. That's what most people believe that ball was. It was a ball valve.
Well, then you got this Jake Barber guy coming out recently, and he's saying that that basically the NHI are these ESP beings that they communicate through telepathy and ESP, and that humans naturally have this ESP ability, but our alien overlords trying to keep us in control and check.
Yeah, the fluoride kills our psychic ability. Yes, and you have to be, apparently, if you're blowing dudes, then you get your psychic
right. If you're gay and left-handed,
if you're gay and left-handed, you can contact the aliens. Yes, so it gets really ridiculous. And this Jake Barber guy, again, this whole story was very deceptively promoted and pushed. And in the lead up to the story, we were told that this was a firsthand whistleblower and that he's going to show evidence of an alien crash retrieval. But then we get to the actual story, and we get this guy telling a bunch of stories, which, great, they're stories, evidence-free stories. And then the video that they show is not from the whistleblower. It's from another source that's anonymous and a completely unrelated event to what this person was describing he experienced. So this is typical of Ross Coulthart. It's just anything to sell a story. And also, this guy was hyped up as being a special forces operator. It turns out he got admitted to school to be special forces, but then he washed out and he just became an airplane mechanic, an aircraft maintenance person. But he claims that was just his cover while he was recovering the aliens. I mean, it's probably going to be a great book, but you won't be able to buy it from me.
So then he also promotes the company. He's got this Skywatcher Ltd or LLC, Skywatcher, where he's got building these Skywatcher units with all this technology to capture these things. And Ross tells me, like, I guess the whole plan is And again, I don't know if I want to share this, because I told Ross that I wouldn't share anything for
Yeah, all of this media
private
blitz is
stuff.
an attempt to promote a for-profit company, and they want government contracts, just like Enigma Labs, just like Lou Elizondo's.
But if they have the Skywatcher tech and they can summon UFOs with these gay left-handed dudes,
yeah, why don't they just show us?
Why don't they just, summon one and, capture it with all the sensors and the data and stuff, or they could set this event up and be like, look, right here on the White House lawn, we're gonna psychically summon a UFO and it's gonna show up, and then it just seems a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, it's the longer I'm here, the more stupid things seem to get. I never thought that I would hear like, oh, you gotta blow dudes and then you can summon aliens, but only if you blow dudes. Like it's really ridiculous. And I think this guy's closely connected to Greer as well. And also, a lot of people don't know this, but he was a fiction writer. This guy, Jake Barber, wrote science fiction novels. And do you know what the main character in his first chapter of that book is? A man named Jason Sands, who recovered alien technology. And he's friends with Jason Sands, who's another wackadoo claiming that he's the alien assassin. He was sent into a cave to like murder an alien,
What's interesting is because a lot of these guys are vets. A lot of them come together because it's really hard. It's really hard when you're questioning a vet's credibility, and
that's why they do it, in my opinion, so that there is less likelihood to call a veteran a liar or a scumbag grifter.
And I just thought about this, like we spend there's trillions missing from the Pentagon budget that's going into these technologies that we're developing. And we have all these people in the media and coming out with, these whistleblowers telling us that it's aliens, that you contact them with gay psychic abilities and all this not weird stuff that just sounds like woke, deep, weird,
it does.
Weird stuff. And it just makes more sense. It doesn't jive with me. Like logically, it makes me feel like, if they got billions of dollars to cover this up, how easy would it be to pay a bunch of guys to tell stories on a limited hangout operation, right?
And also to make this subject of mockery.
Yeah, to make.
And what better way to do that than say, hey, you can contact aliens. You just need a left-handed gay dude with you.
Yes, Aquino. So yeah, David Wilcock makes all this fuss about Satanists. There's a real temple of Set in LA, and it's run by this guy Michael Aquino, who was a former like Pentagon, psychological warfare
psyops guy. Yeah, he was an information warfare specialist for the government.
He's got a whole document called Mind War, and saying that the war is in people's heads and is people's minds, and controlling their perception and their understandings of the world. So it's just mind blowing when they have such control over the narrative. They're getting 500,000 views for this guy who's saying that he's this alleged whistleblower, who again is just another trust me bro almost.
Yeah, that's what they are. And remember, also Ross Coulthart was the person who really promoted and profited the most from the David Grush story, which I think is probably a very sad story, because I know that David Grush is autistic. He's very high functioning autistic, but there's scientific studies that prove that autistic affected people have a very difficult time discerning when somebody is lying to them. And Mr. Grush,
if it's someone in authority, and
Mr. Grush basically destroyed his entire career to go do this and be a whistleblower. And essentially all he had are stories that were repeated to him from people like Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, the usual cast of people that have been promoting these evidence-free stories for decades. And, remember, we were told that, oh no, there's going to be 40 whistleblowers coming forward that are firsthand. Where are they all at? And I'm sorry, but if you don't have any evidence, you're not a whistleblower, you're a storyteller. Real whistleblowers have consequences. Snowden had consequences. Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, these people had consequences for blowing the whistle. The only consequences these guys have are like book deals, documentary deals, speaking engagements. That's not a consequence, And June 5th of 2023 is when David Grush came out with his original story. And we were promised that all the evidence to confirm everything he's saying is true would be forthcoming. And it's been over 600 days since David Grush. Where is the evidence? There is none, because it's all one big circle jerk. These guys, get together with him and tell him stories, and he becomes convinced and he starts repeating the stories. And he no-showed to Aero. To be a whistleblower, you should go to the appropriate government authority and agency and present your evidence. But he no-showed.
Also, Aero's a complete fraud. I mean, it's run by Kirkpatrick, who reports to Moultrie, who reports to Battelle. And I think the entire idea that we need a government office to, analyze Jeremy Corbell's UFO videos is itself a limited hangout scam. To confuse the public about, what is really going on with their trillions of missing tax dollars and what's really flying around in our skies. I point out this video. Yeah. I point out this video, right? Have you ever seen this? This is BAE Adaptive Camouflage Systems. Okay, this is a real tank, a stealth tank technology. This video was declassified 13 years ago.
So imagine what they have now. Yeah.
Yeah, right in the beginning. This is right at the start of the video from 13 years ago. Look at the first thing it says. Global surveillance threats are prevalent. This is what's flying over New Jersey. And then we have reports from the local government there of these things shape-shifting and changing appearance right before their eyes. Well, look what these tanks could do 13 years ago. And then ask yourself what kind of technology they have on these drones. Look at they show you doing it to helicopters, putting these panels on the helicopters or putting them on a ship, and boom, you got a stealth ship or a stealth helicopter. Imagine putting them on a drone, right?
Well, it could be, but I did investigate an awful lot of those New Jersey drone sightings, and a great deal of that was kind of a form of mass hysteria. There a lot of misidentified
a lot of
airplanes.
A lot of the people were filming airplanes. And
I even had one guy who was a content creator. I don't want to name him, but he swore, he sends me a video, he's all excited, and he says something like, look, I filmed a 6-foot huge quadcopter right over my house. And I go, dude, I could hear the helicopter rotor blades in the video. It's a helicopter, not a drone. And he's adamant, oh, no, it's not a helicopter. He forgot that I had his address. So I go to Flight Radar 24, and right at the exact time and date that he's filming what he calls a giant quadcopter drone, there was a police helicopter right over his home.
Yeah.
At the same time and date. So I think
that
a lot
Flight
of
Radar 24 is a lifesaver for UFO investigations.
Everybody should learn how to use it before you get too excited about something. You know? But I've had close calls. Like at the cabin, we're at such a high elevation. I have a cabin in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, and it's at such a high elevation that you do see some wacky shit in the sky. And one time I became convinced that something was a real UFO or something. And it turned out to be the planet Jupiter right over my cabin every night for a month. It just so happened that it was right over my cabin, and it was super bright in the sky. I took pictures, and it looked so, I could have third phase of moon that thing, man, and made some money. But I checked with Solarium, and it was the planet Jupiter.
Huh. So, I want to get your opinion on some other things too. This is, people are asking, why do I even have Steven on? Well, Steven does some pretty good research, man, and he actually gets the receipts for a lot of the stuff. David Wilcock over here saying that he lied and saying all this stuff about him. Well, Steve went out and shows us, watch that video where you can actually see the interaction between David Wilcox and the animal control officers, and you can just see plain as day that he's lying. It's like,
there was no
like
swatting
you're
for sure.
Trolling and calling the guy a liar. You're bringing actual receipts to the table, that's what I care about. I care about, when I see these whistleblowers, I want them to bring actual data and interesting.
I think they've cheapened that word, Jeremy. It's not going to mean anything anymore.
Well, this is just
the word whistleblowers is not going to mean anything like it should anymore, because the UFO community co-opted that word and is just bastardizing the use of the word whistleblower.
Yeah.
Real whistleblowers have mountains of it. Look at Snowden. He had like terabytes of data with him to prove everying that he said was true.
Or and that kid on the Discord server, right?
Yeah.
That leaked all that. Yeah, like that. I watched this whole thing. It was an hour and 15 minutes long, and I don't think I learned a thing that I didn't already know from watching it. And then what really bothered me is that he keeps, you know, it's like they're all playing for the same kind of limited hangout operation team. Because this guy,
Sure.
you know, waves around Lou Elizondo's book Imminent, you know, like 3 times during the interview.
Like it's a Bible, yeah.
Like it's a Bible for ufology.
Well, one of the other things, have you noticed this? A lot of these people that are coming forward and claiming to be whistleblowers, if they were really on the inside, wouldn't they have some brand new information that's never been heard before in the UFO community? Yet all we get is what I would call public domain information. In other words, you know, like David Grush comes forward and he starts talking about that Italian UFO crash. That's been around since a decade before him. So they just have the same information everybody else has. Like they read some UFO books, they watch some documentaries, and then they regurgitate the stuff and reuse it.
Well,
They
there's also,
don't
like,
have unique information that they if they were really on the inside and they had access to all of this top secret information, wouldn't they have something new or
Yeah.
never before
Yeah.
heard? They don't, none of them, you know. And we have this circle jerk sort of effect. Like Tim Gallaudet is my favorite, and Carl Nell. Those two are my favorite. Tim Gallaudet, yeah, great. You were a Navy Rear Admiral, but you never saw a UFO. You never got access to any UFO information during your service. So all he's doing is regurgitating Lou Elizondo stuff. And Carl Nell is one of my favorites. He was asked, you know, he's the one who makes these bold proclamations. I call it research by proclamation. Non-human intelligence is definitely visiting Earth, 100%. And then he's asked, what is your evidence for that? And he said, well, high-ranking people within the government that would know, people like Lou Elizondo and David Grush say it's true, and I believe them. So there's no there there. They don't have the goods. They pretend, you know.
They all kind of circle jerk off each other and are part of the same kind of clique. And
Yeah.
they don't let outsiders into this circle either. They will not bring other people onto these platforms, which get, you know, tens of thousands, if hundreds of thousands of views, to talk about, you know, and there's a lot of stuff out in the public domain that's still classified. Just because it's in the public domain doesn't mean that it wasn't. I mean, there's a lot of declassified, unclassified stuff, and nobody talks about this stuff. And even the world's top theoretical physicists don't know about this stuff. Like we saw in Sabina Hossenfelder's recent video, right? So
Yeah.
she did that video. She's a leading theoretical physicist, and she does this video on the Cybertruck bomber and the anti-gravity stuff, right? And she basically like talks about Eric Weinstein's geometric unity theory and no mention of any of the physicists that are working on the gravitic propulsion stuff. And then she says, oh, and could the government hide it? And she makes all these jokes about how the government could never hide this stuff. Not, you know, realizing that this stuff has been hidden from her. She has no idea this stuff exists, even though it's
well,
out.
they sure hid the Manhattan Project pretty good. And that's impressive considering the number of people that were working on that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, also, you know, they have these limited hangout ops to basically hog up the airwaves on and make people think that there's nothing there, because if there was, why isn't Jeremy Corbell reporting on this? You know, he brought us Bob Lazar, right?
Yeah, well, you know, some of the history of this stuff, and we do know that there's verified examples where the United States government actively encouraged UFO talk and talk of aliens to cover for secret projects.
Right.
They did it with the U-2 spy plane. They did it with the SR-71 Blackbird. They did it with the stealth fighter and the stealth bomber. So I think that it's very useful. Maybe if some of these people aren't really directly working for the government, but you have to know that there's an awful lot of shady shit that goes on in the UFO community. And it seems like there's never any consequences. Like Lou Elizondo stood on a stage and charged people money claiming to be a UFO expert, and he showed them verifiably fake pictures of UFOs. You know, to me, that's a form of consumer fraud, yet nobody's ever prosecuted or even investigated. And back to Lou Elizondo, they collected millions of dollars for TTSA, and they told everybody they would build a revolutionary spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world. They didn't do any of that. And they lied about
that got burned for $1 million investing in that.
They lied to investors claiming that Lou Elizondo ran a $22 million funded Pentagon UFO program while they were soliciting donations or public investment. That's you can't, according to the SEC, you can't lie to investors in order to get them to give you money. But that's exactly what TTSA did, yet there was an investigation, but it got shut down because of COVID, apparently. And but nobody was ever prosecuted. There was never any consequences. So my working theory is that either some of these people are directly what I would call company men, and this is actively being put out to muddy the waters. It's disinformation, or there are people within the government that are just aware of all of this, and they don't discourage it very much because it helps their cause to hide the reality of the longer I'm here, the more that I think that a lot of the truly anomalous cases are just human technology, but it's 20 years ahead of what we're aware of. It's classified projects. I call it the dark playground, and few people get to play in that playground or know what capabilities they have. It's just like that tank stuff you just showed me. If they could make a tank vanish 13 years ago, they could make an airplane vanish today for sure, 100%. They can make an airplane invisible in the sky, and you know a lot about technology. This stuff is not even that super advanced. You film what's behind the object, and then you somehow project onto the skin of the front of that object what's behind it, and you make it disappear. It's not.
There's other methods too. I mean, at the right angle, you can create a high enough temperature differential, and it will reflect all the light and bend it around the object like this.
There you go. Yeah. And so I'm sure that they have ridiculous technology. For a while, I was convinced that there were stealth blimps over major cities. And I got some sightings reports and looked into them and kind of hit brick walls on that front. But, it would stand to reason, especially during times of like a lot of civil disobedience. Like, do you think they don't have eyes in the skies? Like, did they not have eyes in the skies over Portland when it was burning? Of course they did. And maybe they have some kind of capabilities that they're not going to tell us about, like stealth blimps or stealth drones that they could deploy to surveil the populace and see what's going on. I think they have a lot of stuff that they don't want us to know about. And, UFOs and aliens, it is the perfect cover because everybody thinks it's kooky and wacky, and these people are crazy. They're nutbags. They're wackadoos. So it's a good cover for sure. You're muted right now.
I also like to point out the 1.8 gigapixel camera that they built at BAE Systems, that Giannis Antoniades.
Oh, that's the kind of camera where they could read like a license plate from like 5 miles up or something, right?
They have these aerostats, which is like a blimp or a balloon with this camera mounted on it, and it just sits there and records everything, and they can zoom into any part of this 1.8 gigapixel image and get like real high def in, so that if they can track you leaving the job here, go and drop your kids off at school, and then going back to your house, and they can watch it all and record it all. And then go back on the video, and then they have computer AI assisted, tracing, so like that they'll mark all the cars and they'll be able to map where everything goes. And this was like, again, 13, 11 years ago. This was over a decade ago. So
yeah, so
who
imagine
knows what they have now. That just blows my mind. The all this surveillance tech, and then the invisibility tech, really, that's where I'm at. I wanted to switch gears because Ashton Forbes had Avi Loeb on the podcast, and this was 8 hours ago today, and Ashton, I think, will be joining me tomorrow night for a deep dive on the physics. There was some stuff discussed in here that was pretty interesting, right around the middle mark, right here at the nature of dark energy and propulsion. Avi talks about some really cool physics that we're going to get into. We won't get into it tonight, but I'm going to talk about it tomorrow night on the podcast. And we've got also Mick West and others, talking about the videos, because, of course, Ashton brought up the video again, and tried to, you know, see what Abby's reaction or response would be to it. I don't think Abby was really knowledgeable or familiar with the videos. It didn't seem like it seemed like he was very quiet during this segment, like just listening, you know, because it didn't seem like he had known anything about this. Again, I don't know. You've done some of your own investigation into this case as well.
Yeah, I think this is a nothing burger. I mean, we've got the guy who took the still pictures of that was used to create the background. We've got the thing that bothers me about Ashton. You know, I don't have anything personally against him, but he's built an entire following on completely, totally, 100% provable fake videos. And although, hey, what if this was real and the physics is very interesting? Great, but the videos are fake, and we've had at least 10 or more total CGI on the record experts all look at the videos and say these are fake, and these are the reasons
10 of them.
why.
Can you show me those or bring those up? I know about the I remember there was like the quarter crew that
quarter
came
clue.
on,
There's somebody called Ashley. I'd have to go looking through old notes to really dig them back out.
well, this stuff like this has been going on for a while now, and he's got a lot of followers. He's been on, you know, Candace Owens, Glenn Beck, you know, a couple really big platforms, you know, and he's getting these big guests. You know, I've been trying to get Abby on our show to talk physics and sensor technology and all that fun stuff for a while now. And Ashton landed an interview with him, and I can't even get a response back from the guy. So, you know, well, I don't know what he's doing right that I'm doing wrong, but he's doing something right. And, you know, if we can get more people interested in the technology and the physics, then, you know, I'm not an expert on the videos. I don't know what the deal is with the videos. But Ashton's, you know, he's making an effort to understand and learn the physics and get, you know, he doesn't get everything right all the time. But, you know, he's making a valid attempt at it, at least, and drawing a lot of other people's, you know, attention to the fact that, you know, there could be other technology going on with this. My whole thing with the whole MH370 case, it just seems super suspicious with those 20 scientists that just went missing, and they've never found the bodies. You know, they found pieces which they thought were the plane. But they've never found these actual scientists, and the stuff that they were working on and the people that they were working for are extremely suspicious on my list of suspects of, you know, government deep state involvement and that kind of stuff. So I just keep an open mind to all this stuff because I just don't know enough about the video.
Yeah, well, I mean, I try to keep an open mind too, but you know, the problem that I have with Ashton is that he's completely dishonest. Like, he just ignores overwhelming 100% proof that those videos are fake, and he refuses to acknowledge that. So most of me is like, I don't really care what else you have to say. You're totally convinced that fake videos are real. Congratulations on building a big following, but look what you've built it on. It falls apart. You know, these videos are not real, and to me it doesn't even make sense. Like, okay, so they teleported a plane. That's what happened to the plane. We've got pieces of the plane. Did they not teleport the whole plane? Pieces of it have washed up for sure, you know. And the other thing is this is a tragedy. All these people died, you know. And at one point, I'm sure that he said, "Oh, none of the family care about what I'm doing." Some of the family members have come forward and said that they don't appreciate people, creating conspiracy theories around it. He claimed
they always do that. They tried that shit with 9/11 too. They said, "Oh, you're insulting the victims' families." Not if we get an not if they were murdered and we get a real investigation. If there's nothing there, then there's nothing there. But they tried that bullshit with 9/11, and I just don't know what to. I just don't know. You know, there's people in the audience here, obviously, saying I'm giving you a softball interview. You know, what should I ask Steven? You know, I'm reading the chat, guys. You know, like, does anyone have any like aha
moment? Well, you know, here's a perfect example of why I don't like these MH370 videos. There still exists a PDF. I could dig it out sometime and send it back to you. I'm not going to do it right now, in which real CGI experts like Quarter Crew were coming out and saying these videos are completely fake, and here's why. And Ashton's retort to that was, well, the head of Marvel Studios, who worked on Top Gun Maverick, says the videos can have been faked. And his evidence for that was an anonymous Reddit poster. People checked. The person that did CGI for Top Gun Maverick didn't even know the videos existed. So he's using fake evidence to retort real experts. And my point is this: if you're going to take a hard stance and say these videos can't be fake and here's why, well, then hire a CGI expert to refute these other experts who have said these videos are completely fake and here's why. And he won't do that because he can't do that, because no real on the record CGI expert will look at those videos and say they can't be fake because they are fake. We've got the guy who took the images. You know, he had plane ticket. He had, you know, his passport. He took the background images of the clouds. And Ashton has made other statements like, oh, it would take a whole team of animators 6 months or more to make these videos. They couldn't be made that quickly. You know, this girl Kreishley did it on her stream in a few hours, and she totally point for point recreated these videos that he's been using in a few hours. So I'm just not impressed by somebody using fake videos. We've got the stock assets. We've got stock images used to create the backgrounds. You know, we've got signs of compositing in the videos. We've got the person who claims they created the videos has come forward. He won't accept any of that.
Well, that's a great, you know, a great explanation and excuse and all. I don't think everyone's buying that. It seems like a lot of people are still, you know, unsure about the videos and the audience reaction here. But the 20 Freescale semiconductors.
Well, then maybe those people can go find me 10 experts that are on the record.
Yeah.
I don't mean fake anonymous Reddit posters. I mean, find me a person whose resume everybody can look at, whose job and work history everybody can look at, that verifiably works in that industry. Find me 10 people like that that will refute the 10 that have come forward and said that these are fake. You know, to me, you have to go with the weight of the evidence. And if there's 10 on the record verifiable CGI experts saying that these videos are fake and here's why, then you gotta do more than find an anonymous Reddit poster that claims he worked on Top Gun Maverick and the videos can't be fake. I'm just not buying it.
I mean, there's a lot of people that, you know, have you know, have problems with the videos as well. And again, if we can have conversations about the science, I like that side of this, because it gets me a chance to, you know, say, well, there's no, you know, what's possible and what isn't possible, and maybe educate people on the science of all this stuff. I'm not.
Well,
I wish I was a
you,
video editing
you have
CGI expert, man. But
you have a physics background, so let me ask you this: what amount of energy do you think it would take to teleport a 747 or similar sized aircraft hundreds of miles? What amount of energy would that take?
I don't know, because, you know, there's no.
Well, see, this is why I have a problem, because I would think that the amount, I'm no physics expert, but I would think that the amount of energy required to do that would be enormous. So
it's not as much energy as it would take to disappear it and make it go invisible.
Sure, but
that's my theory, my personal theory.
Some grand conspiracy to make this plane disappear. You know, there's a lot easier ways to do it than to have some kind of alien technology teleport it hundreds of miles away somewhere. You blow it up, like, you know.
This can be done with active cloaking. So they have a whole bunch of patents with this guy, you know, that talks about the, you know, Kevin Kremeyer patents. I've talked about these before on the show. And they're like, you know, they could project these plasma balls on pretty much anything, including like the wings of aircraft and whatnot. And
yeah, and isn't there plasma? Isn't there plasma-based decoys that the government has? They can make a plasma ball.
Yeah, the Pentagon talking plasma balls.
Yeah.
There's another patent where they basically shine these plasma balls on the surface, the leading wing edge of the craft, so they can command control remotely of another aircraft by you know, controlling the airflow over the wing surfaces and stuff.
Well, that's interesting.
I've always thought it might be possible if you could affect the surface plasmons in a material, that you could get them, you know, heated up super fast in the same way, and get a mirage effect and make things invisible. But again, this is like, again, it has to be. I want to see more demonstrations of this, and I want to see more of this come out. I think it's great that, you know, we've got, like, you know, Hal Putoff and Eric Davis and Sal Pais, coming forward to talk about their science research into this. They were obviously given a lot of, funding by the Air Force.
Let me ask you about the Salvador Pais patents. If that technology was real and workable, shouldn't he have at least like a benchtop demonstrator or something that he could show working? It's been years since those patents. Nobody's built anything that worked based on that information in the patents.
Well, we haven't had. I mean, he's been very close to the chest about the secret sauce on this, and didn't really come out with a lot of this until the Jesse Michaels interview. He came out with some new stuff now that I haven't heard before in the Jesse Michaels interview, which gives me a little bit more insight about how we might actually build, this the skin coating. And that's wild because what he describes is this layer of a piezoelectric material. And in that TTSA metamaterial that they showed us all, that we actually have a piece of the art's parts in our possession that we've analyzed on the Falcon Space Group. Now, that's just a layered bismuth, magnesium. There's no layer of a piezoelectric material in there. So they didn't give, even TTSA gave us some bullshit piece of technology that didn't have the real answers in it. If we're to expect that any of this is true, so there's lots of conflicting information.
Isn't it convenient that he just says, well, I left out the secret sauce? Then, I guess my point with him is I'd love to believe him that he cracked the code, but you have a science background, and I'm sure you realize that if he actually is able to demonstrate working anti-gravity, he will be considered the next Tesla, the next Einstein. And what scientist wouldn't want that? So I feel like there's a big bluff going on sometimes. I'd love to believe him, but with even just simple things that I've done, I can show that it works. Like I've been working lately on a lot of motor control and servo control stuff. My workbench is a mess, but I could show you computer controlled servos. I could show you computer controlled DC motors, stepper motors, and different things that I'm working on. And with him, it seems like we get a lot of, to me, it's theoretical techno babble, but maybe I just don't have a deep understanding of the physics that he's describing. But I always think like, don't tell me that you cracked the code to anti-gravity. Show it to me. Show it to the world. He would be like the most famous scientist overnight. And it's because you've been chasing this for ever since I've known you, Jeremy, and I have a lot of respect for that. This would be the most world-changing technology since electricity, or since the computer. So it just seems very suspicious to me that he's going to claim that he knows how to do this, but he can't show us a work. Even just show, a benchtop model. Show us something the size of a phone levitating with this anti-gravity effect. He hasn't done that so far. So I was interested early on, and I listened to some of his, I guess that Theories with Everything interview, and a few others maybe that he did, but I just kind of lost interest because I'm like, is he ever going to show us something working, or is this all just speculation, hope-sos, maybes, and possibilities? But it is bizarre that the Navy would allow him to file these patents if he doesn't have proof of concept or a working version of it.
Yeah, I don't know. This is, I guess, of all the things that have come out of this UFO business, if there's technology there, then that's going to be the most exciting thing, in my opinion. And that's where I'd like to keep the conversation heading in the future. And I'd like to educate as many people as possible about, just what we might be able to do. Because I just don't like the idea that, we're stuck here with Einstein. We're all stuck here, and you can't ever leave this planet. It's basically we're here on a prison, and we can't ever venture outside this planet. And this is all there is. This is all there will ever be.
Well, I think for sure we're going to make it to Mars in our lifetimes, but that's not exactly.
I hope so. I hope we see that.
It's exciting. That's exciting to me, but it would be much more exciting to develop faster than light technology or some way around that speed of light limitation. And visit other star systems, because that's where the real mysteries are going to be solved. Like if we find Earth-like planets on other star systems and other intelligent life, or even what if we just found a planet that just had animal life and no super intelligent life? We could instantly move there, colonize it. There'd be, it would just be amazing. But I don't know about the, I'm sure Elon is going to get us to Mars in our lifetime. He seems like the next window coming up is what, in 2 years, I think. And they're going to try to do unmanned flights to Mars in the next window. And then the very next window after that will be manned flights. So it might be coming sooner than people think. And I hope that it does, because I agree with Elon. We could have a planetary we could have an asteroid hit the planet and destroy human civilization. It's very conceivable. So we have to have a backup plan. What if we are the only intelligent life in the universe and we get extinguished somehow? It could be
yeah, that would be terrible. That would totally suck, man. Oh, this guy's asking about Dr. Krangle, Bob Krangle. That's the Jeremy Corbell had needed to find some kind of proof that Bob Lazar actually was who he said he was and worked on what he said he did. So he put out this transcript of an interview he allegedly did with this guy, Dr. Bob Krangle. No recording was ever put out of that interview. So there's no evidence any of that was said or even exists, which is much like Corbell. He claims he has stuff.
But we do know that the signals intelligence guy, I love that part of the story. So George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, Jeremy, you're well aware, have been making millions of dollars selling Bob Lazar's story.
Yeah.
They were never able to get to the person that hired physicists at Los Alamos at the time. They were never able to get to the actual people who worked with Bob at the lab. But this researcher, signals intelligence, was able to do that. And I don't know if it's 3 or 4 different sources that all verifiably worked at Los Alamos, all confirming that he was a low-level technician. He was never a physicist. And they even interviewed the person who hired physicists for the lab, who said, I never hired Bob Lazar as a physicist. So, the story falls apart. We only get half of the story.
It wasn't Teller, because everyone's like, oh, Teller's the guy that hired him. And when they asked him about Bob, he got all weird.
Yeah, it is frustrating, because Teller could have put a lot of this to bed by just saying, I never met that man. I don't know who he is. And he didn't. He just refused to answer questions about him. But yeah, I don't know. I know I had
he was just upset that bullshit's getting lip service, I think. And
so he could have just been
like, oh, it's better I don't talk about this or don't speak.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about this nonsense because I'm a serious scientist. Yeah, but Corbell did you see that that latest thing where he's just crying like me, I'm the one that the Immaculate Constipation documents came from and I didn't get credit.
It is TMZ level drama bullshit. It was the worst. And it was like sad that he has a show on TMZ with millions of viewers watching this complete clown pretend to be the UFO revolution, pretend to have real whistleblowers and evidence. And literally I personally believe that, Corbell is part of a limited hangout operation. I think that he's a useful idiot. I don't think that he even knows.
Oh, absolutely. He is
typically what he's so stupid.
The company men would call him, a bozo. Once in a while, you need a bozo to do something for you.
Right.
Here's a great bozo, and again, though, remember I said there's never any consequences. If he's getting leaks from classified briefings and he's putting them out in the public, I think that's illegal. I don't understand why there's no prosecution based on that. And it seems very clear that somebody from the UAPTF was the people leaking him these drops, and no investigation into that. And now, meanwhile, somebody took a cell phone footage of a plane crashing, right? Was it a plane crashing on an aircraft carrier? And they got prosecuted out the wazoo because they put it on Instagram or something like that. And it's kind of crazy how he's able to continue. And, I love the last one.
Well, it's just so easy. It just makes it seem like it's so easy, because all they would have to do is have some Pentagon CIA handler, you know, give Jeremy a video every month and tell him, oh, this is insider stuff, and then he goes and leaks it to the public and overhypes it up, and then they just sit back and they're like, all right, now we'll let the public you know, froth over this one for about a week, and then we'll bring an arrow to completely debunk it. And it's like, it seems like this pattern of setup over and over again.
Yeah, and it seems like the stuff that he puts out is so easily debunkable that it's like, you know, it's like that third phase thing. Well, we could have investigated it, but then we wouldn't have a story, so we didn't. We just put it out. You know, it's the camera aperture one. That one was stupid. The flares one. That one was stupid. You know,
yeah, the balloons.
You've been into you've been into UFOs and stuff for so long, and so have I. The first thing you want to do is eliminate prosaic explanations, and especially in the case of those flares. Like, when have we not seen flare videos that look like that? Instantly, I knew that this was flares. Oh no, it couldn't be flares. Well, there was a military exercise dropping flares at the exact time and date of the so-called sighting, so maybe Occam's razor applies here. But he's been very successful at selling bullshit, and that's what apparently people want, you know. I don't get it. And it makes me sad that somebody like him can get so popular when he's wrong about everything. He's wrong. He was wrong about Bob Lazar. He was wrong about the alien implants with that podiatrist. He was wrong about the pyramid alien spaceships. He was wrong about the bokeh effect one, the jellyfish. It's just all, it's like he no discernment whatsoever. But I think it's intentional, because he knows that if he puts out a video and it's like it's unidentified drones off of a Navy aircraft carrier being filmed, you know, there's no story there. But if you say it's pyramid-based, pyramid-shaped spaceships, there's a big story in it. And that's what happened. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know this, but the original footage had audio. And the person shown on the deck was saying, we have unidentified drones off of our bow or whatever. He deleted the audio. He deleted that audio where somebody's saying we have unidentified drones. So that means that he's made purposeful attempts to deceive the public in order to generate.
Yeah. And this is a guy we have testifying in front of Congress. How is this guy get in front of Nancy Mace? I just don't get it. Like, we have real researchers.
Yeah, or even Jeremy, or even George Knapp, who, like, some people would think, oh well, he's a seasoned journalist, he's been at this for decades, but like, the guy wrote a book that claiming that there was a mountain of evidence that they based the book on, and then he admits on Joe Rogan, oh, there is no evidence, it's just stories, you know. And it's just kind of like, are they really going to put the two of the most ridiculous UFO grifters in front of Congress? It seems to me, like you said, they're looking to make a mockery of this and to take people away from the real research, you know?
Yeah, exactly. This is I described the propaganda technique that this is called. It's called a limited hangout.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Sure.
It's very effective. It's very effective at hiding the truth, because, and I explained the very mechanism by how it works is that people assume that Jeremy Corbell is the head of the UFO revolution. He's the guy, you know, analyzing all this stuff. And if it didn't come from Jeremy, then it doesn't exist. So if Jeremy says, you know, it seems like every time we release like some major interview with a scientist or something big drops somewhere else, Jeremy Corbell immediately comes out and says, I got this new video, it's all hyped up, this is the next big thing that's going to come out. So everyone thinks, oh, the next big thing is coming out, and it's going to come out of Jeremy Corbell, and it can't be this other thing on this other little channel, because why Jeremy would have reported on it. And that's like it's one of the main mechanisms for how they hide real information with fake information. It's very effective.
You also have to admit that some of those, you know, more serious, scientifically based interviews and things like you do, they just don't have the razzle dazzle. You know, they don't. It's dry, and it's like you really have to pay attention, and maybe you even need to look some of the terms up that they're speaking in, and it's sometimes difficult to understand.
It's
versus
like
giant pyramids, giant triangles, alien spaceship. You know, that is going to grab the attention. Not like
5-minute video on this, and
not a serious scientist talking about Like, let's say I've heard some of the stuff, you know, I try to pay attention sometimes, some of the stuff that you're doing. And like, you had somebody talking about mass reduction and methods of mass reduction. And to me, that was fascinating. Like, wait, you could take something that weighs 100 pounds, and even if you can demonstrate that you can make it weigh 99 pounds with some method, that means there's some promise there that you may eventually be able to take something that weighs 100 pounds and make it weigh 0 pounds, you know? But it's not very sexy, I guess. And people aren't as fascinated by that as by a very over sensationalized story. Look at this egg thing. Like, we're going to get a firsthand person that dealt with alien crash retrievals. And remember, at first he didn't say that it was alien. He just didn't know what it was. But then members of the UAPTF told him it was aliens. At least that's what he claims. And who is he talking about? Probably Travis Taylor from the Skinwalker Ranch. He was a UAPTF member. Could be David Grush. He was working with or for the UAPTF. Could be that Sarah Gam girl who also claims to be a psychic medium who can talk to your dead grandmother for $150. You know, so it's again back to the circle jerk. Like, people from the UAPTF told me that this was an alien spacecraft, and I don't know. It's very deceptive what they did too, because everybody.
It is. They're all trying to say it's aliens, and none of them will talk about the human technologies, anything related to this. It's always about aliens, and it's the government covering up aliens, and that, like, to me, it just seems like
yeah. To eliminate any other possibility before you've even considered that is kind of stupid to me. And even like Elizondo, remember, for years he was saying we definitely know this is not drones. Now all of a sudden, because of the drone flap, now he's concerned about the drone problem. You know, it's like whatever's going to sell, I guess. How is this? What is it? Mark from Falcon Space? Is that his name?
Mark, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna contact him again, and I'm gonna see if he'll let me come visit his lab, because we got off on the wrong foot. But I would like to see what you guys are doing over there, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I like strange science. I like weird. You know what I did recently? I made a chemical hydrogen generator, and that was fun because you know, and it's just a couple of components and some chemicals, and you can make hydrogen. It's probably dangerous though, so I really want to invest in like a electric hydrogen generator that does it through water, you know?
electrolysis, yeah.
The chemical one is gross, dude. You put aluminum foil balls in this caustic chemical, and then hydrogen comes off, you know, but it heats up the flask. I'm afraid it's going to blow up, but I have glasses on at all times and gloves and stuff, but I did it outside at the cabin. And I'm sure you've seen those kind of like caustic, it's probably toxic fumes coming out of that thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want the truth too. And me and Steve don't have to agree on everything.
No, I'm sure we disagree on a lot of stuff.
Having Steve on my show doesn't mean I endorse everything Steve. It doesn't mean
I always have
everything
that problem. Yeah,
and get stuff
also
wrong from time to time. So.
I may have said some things that people will find objectionable 5 years ago, and Jeremy has no way of knowing everything. I always get this problem on my show. Like, sometimes I'll have a guest, and I didn't know they said something wacky 5 years ago, and then I get shit for it. I'm like, how was I supposed to know he said that or whatever, you know? So yeah,
no, I was just going off what David Wilcock said about you.
That was so funny. I seen you in his live chat saying that you were gonna. I screenshotted it. I put it on my Twitter.
A couple people were like, "This guy's a troll. Don't trust him." But hopefully, we got a few people to come over here and get.
Yeah, it is wild to me that the guy from Ancient Aliens is telling everybody he's getting me arrested and suing me. You know.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild,
not cool, man. I mean, I don't threaten to have, you know, Corbell arrested or sued. You know, I wouldn't do that. I just say, you know, he's making a fool out of himself, and I'm just going to call him out for it. But
no, but I'm on your side when it comes to Corbell. He's an intellectual weakling and a coward. Like, if he really cared about the truth or really thought what he was doing was excellent work, he'd be willing to debate somebody who would respectfully disagree with him, and he'll never do that because he knows, like, look at all the data points on Bob Lazar that point to him being a fraud. he only gives half the story. That's not a coincidence. That's how it works. You just give him the half that makes people believe he's telling the truth. You leave out that he ran a whorehouse and he's a fake scientist and, you know, all of that stuff.
So this is a quote from one of our audience. They're saying that you have a bias and that you just want everything to be fake, and you
No, I've always told people, and come on, Mr. Crypto, you know better. I always tell people, you know, once in a while I get challenged and like, well, Stephen, all these UFOs can't be fake. And I say, okay, well, send me some that aren't. And then I get things like birds flapping sent to me, filmed on a potato camera phone, you know, like I have done exhaustive research on many different things. And I will say that the one that I won't let go of so far is Roswell. I will never believe the skeptical arguments on that, which I think are very, very weak. There's too many people that saw things. There's too many people on their deathbed that told their children they saw alien bodies. And I just don't believe that that number of people would just make shit up as they're laying in a bed dying. There's a book called Children of Roswell.
Remember the stream we did with Cal Korff? He's one of the original Roswell investigators and a skeptic.
Yeah, he had no real arguments. He's just like, case closed. It was Project Mogul. It couldn't be anything else. You know, I thought his arguments were very weak. You know?
Yeah, we did a number on him in that interview. That was great. Yeah, because Cal's been around for years. But again, yeah, so there's not I agree. You're not just out here to say everything's fake. You're not like a Mick West that you just like want to influence your intellectual superiority over.
No, and I invite people to send me evidence, and I've looked into so many different things. And I also, when it comes to the thing like Roswell, I really thought like, oh well, I have this microphone and I have this show, and if I just get all the experts together, then we'll really get to the truth. And we did that, and no, we just got to, you know, the believers believe that it was aliens. We've even had Walter Bosley who thought it was some sort of Nazi technology being test flown, and that's why they covered it up.
Well, that's because of Joseph Farrell and his influence.
Yeah. And of course we had a skeptic that was kind of unconvincing to me, and we had Don Schmidt and Kevin Randall, and even a portion of an interview with Stanton Friedman that I did previous to his death. And really, like, I think that's 24 hours long, that whole Roswell series that I did. And that's what it got cut down to. There was probably 35 or 40 hours of material all on Roswell. And really, I've talked to many people who watched that whole thing. And you can watch the whole thing, and I don't think it moves the needle for anybody. If they believed that Roswell was aliens, then they listen to the believer side of the arguments being made by all the experts and authors in that series. And if you believe the skeptical side, or, you know, then you believe it wasn't. But I just think there's too much. And I also think that Roswell is the seed of so much of this stuff. And what if there was alien visitation, but it was very, very rare, right? And that one event was actually alien. What if that one event was actually alien visitation and they somehow crashed, went down, whatever? And so all of this UFO mythology that came after it, much of which is fake, did have a base on a kernel of truth there, you know?
Right.
But maybe there was no more alien intervention on Earth since 1947, but people want it to be true so much that people tack on to the story. And a lot of people have tacked on to Roswell. People forget, but the alien autopsy film, which made millions of dollars, that was tacked on to Roswell. It was originally marketed that this was a film of the Roswell aliens being autopsied. We've got the Roswell Rock. We've got the day after Roswell. People tie into, and you've heard so many people tie into the legends of Roswell with their stories. So, but I think there might have been a seed of truth to that one. Oh yeah, what do you think of are you excited about these JFK and RFK and files?
Yeah, I am. I am excited. There's apparently like 5 million files, pages of information or something ridiculous. Which, you know, whole thing is if everything comes out and they get everything connected to, you know, Oswald's boss in New Orleans, Guy Bannister there, who created the X-Files, and they get everything on Dorothy Kilgallen and Marilyn Monroe, which is connected to Kennedy, right? We're going to have some UFO stuff in those files.
There's got to be a UFO component.
There's got to
it,
be
yeah.
UFO stuff in those files, and there's got to be Roswell stuff in those files, because
somebody was asking me about the possibilities, and I do know that famous story where Trump was supposed to release them, and this Judge Napolitano was his friend, you know, called him and said, "What are you doing? You promised, it was a campaign promise. You got to release those files." And famously, and Napolitano has told this story on several different shows, Trump famously said, if you saw what was in those files, they're so shocking, you would know that you couldn't release them. So there's something, there is something in these files. And somebody was asking me, like, well, what do you think, Stephen? What are the possibilities? There's a few possibilities, but, you know, majorly, I think that there's going to be some evidence or proof that factions within our government were somehow involved in the planning and execution of the sitting president. And if that's proven, that's shocking, that somebody within the government. And then there's also that recent audio recording that came out that seems to indicate LBJ might have been directly involved. And what if that's the case? What if a sitting vice president said, this guy's trying to end the Vietnam War, all the warmongers in the industrial complex don't like that idea, let's get rid of him and I'll continue the war. And it could be as shocking as that would be shocking, that a vice president would assassinate his own superior to then take power.
But they didn't act alone, because, you know, Alan Dulles sat on the whole cover-up report with the Warren Commission and everything. And then a number of people who served on the Warren Commission were awarded with presidencies afterward, you know, like Gerald Ford. And that was weird.
And then you've got George Bush Sr., who didn't remember that he was in Dallas that day. Come on. Come on.
There's a lot of stuff, man.
Everybody knows where they were the day that JFK got assassinated, and when they heard about it. So you're not just
a total government shill, you know, denying, like, you know, some of these guys, like,
no, but I do go by the preponderance of the evidence, and generally, you know, like, here's a perfect example. Charles Hall, who invented the tall white alien stories. A perfect example is that there's been an incredible amount of mythology built around the tall white aliens, and people took his stories and expanded upon them and ran with them. And David Wilcock and Corey Goode talk about the tall white aliens. Linda Moulton Hale talks about the tall white aliens. But what you find out when you investigate the originator of the story, his whole story begins with, when I was in the Air Force. And so I went to the National Personnel Records Center and tried to get his records. He's never been in the Air Force, but I wanted to be sure. So I got a former Marine. His name is Robert Cole, and he is sort of an expert in military records. And so I got him to check after me, because I think the hallmark of a good researcher is that multiple researchers will research that and come to the same conclusion. We've had Richard Cole and one other person. All of us went to the mat to try to get his military records. They don't exist.
He's so well spoken, though, man. He's just like,
he's
eloquent, and just like if I could speak that well and that, you know, authoritatively and confidently, I think I'd have a lot more people following me too. But
but if my point is, if I kind of declare like, well, this story is fake, it's because I'm well researched and well informed on the facts. So I you know, and I went to Charles Hall, gave him the benefit of the doubt. He said, you can't get my military records because you don't have a need to know. And everybody knows that's not the way it works. Even if let's say he did work on top secret projects for the Air Force, they won't tell me that, but they'll tell me his enlistment dates. We can't find his enlistment dates. There's also problems with his so-called evidence. Like, he showed pictures in his book claiming it to be a base in Vietnam. And there was a military historian pointed this one out to me. There was telephone poles and power lines at the base that he claims was in Vietnam. And the military historian confirmed for me there were no power lines there at the time. So, you know, there's a lot of problems with his story. So I don't just willy-nilly like, this must be fake because I want it to be. If it were proven that aliens visited Earth, I think the world would be such a more interesting, amazing place. And I would want that. I would welcome that. But a lot of these stories I look into, And you know, I think that we have to be very real and acknowledge at least that there is a huge problem of grifters in the UFO community because it's
Oh,
very
massively.
profitable. Yeah,
And they're
it's very
promoted, I
profitable.
think, by the Operation Mockingbird that still exists.
Yeah,
I
what
think
was
there's a
it? The
hidden
one
hand.
time they proved that 35 people working at the New York Times were all on a CIA payroll at once.
Yeah.
35 members of one newspaper, one major
Yeah,
city
and this is
newspaper.
an age where newspapers are dead. They know that nobody watches the mainstream media. People watch podcasts. So to think that some of these podcasters aren't CIA agents themselves, pushing pure
What
misinformation
about Sean Ryan? He actually was a CIA contractor before his podcast,
oh,
and now
dude,
he has all
he's
these
been
bullshitters
completely
on.
outed. That whole everyone knows that he's like a plant now. After that whole Sarah Adams thing with her predicting that the Cybertruck bombing, then it happening, and then them like I still think there's something wrong with that whole Cybertruck case. The guy, did the guy kill himself? Did they shoot him in the head and then summon the vehicle there? The guy is an expert enough on on car bombs to call it in the email a VBIED, a vehicle based IED. Yet he uses a Cybertruck and fills it with a bunch of like low quality
Fireworks,
fireworks.
basically fireworks. Yeah, and he
It
should have known that based on the construction of the Cybertruck, that thing's not really going to explode very well.
yes.
You know, should have
I
picked
was
a
like, this is
Toyota
just
or
so
something.
weird, man. The whole thing with that Cybertruck bombing, it just seems like it happens at the Trump Hotel in a Elon car. It just seems like so.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know though. I thought that, you know, Sean Ryan is basically just profiting off of a tragedy, you know, that this guy was obviously mentally ill, you know, and somebody was able to verify that he showed a picture that said that this is a base on Area 51 where they work on the flying saucers,
I
and
don't
that's
believe any of that narrative.
no, that
Steven.
turned out to be a machine shop. 100% Area 51 history experts identified that as a machine shop. And there's no getting around that he was totally wrong in a lot of the stuff that he was talking about. And I don't know, maybe it's just because Jeremy, I grew up with a lot of crazy people in my family, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, mentally ill people.
Yeah.
And paranoid schizophrenia runs in my family. So I kind of recognize the signs of that in this person.
Huh.
His messages were very, I don't know, schizo. They seem schizo to me, like a paranoid schizophrenic, you know?
Yeah.
So to me, the whole thing with Sean Ryan is like, first they were going with this whole narrative, like he didn't really die, he's still alive somewhere, and all this stuff, and it just seemed like profiting off of a tragedy and getting a viral story out of basically a guy who was mentally ill, obviously very depressed. You'd have to be to blow yourself up, you know, and obviously he's not thinking clearly, like you said. If he's an explosives expert, that was a very poor attempt, you know. But again, conspiracy wheels roll, and people say, well, he wasn't trying to hurt anybody, so he did that on purpose. He was just trying to draw attention to the information that he was presenting. But much of the information that he was presenting has already been kind of disproven as nonsense. So who knows with this guy, you know? But it is a tragedy. The guy had, you know, family, and so I kind of feel bad in these circumstances when people run to profit from it. Just like remember Mark McCandlish's suicide, and how many grifters ran to say there was like a Men in Black conspiracy to murder him because he was telling the truth. But all of his information had been out for decades, so it didn't make any sense. I talked to the coroner, the investigating officer who discovered the body in the home. It was just a suicide. Sometimes people are just mentally ill and they kill themselves, and it's tragic, but sometimes there is no conspiracy there.
Yeah, and sometimes people have information that they don't want to get out, and the CIA murders them in weird ways and uses that for their own narrative and advantage, too.
Yeah,
So
could be, yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just skeptical about all this, especially with the Sarah Adams CIA agent. Not a ridiculous question at all, by the way, the poll that I just posted, because you have a CIA agent like Sarah Adams telling people in the public that Al Qaeda loves the World Trade Center Building 7 conspiracy, that somehow like you're supporting terrorists if you investigate World Trade Center Building 7, which totally just doesn't make sense to me as an investigator and a physicist and a scientist. I've read the NIST reports, and that were written by SAIC, by the way. Most of the scientists on the NIST reports were all SAIC scientists, which is a big, huge scientific defense contractor with a huge conflict of interest in writing a report, trying to get to the bottom of, possible government collusion in the 9/11 attacks. It just was a ridiculous excuse.
I'm with you on 9/11. I will never believe that the explanation that we were given. It's just nothing makes sense. And then, you've been into it a lot more than me. The Saudis all being flown out of the country right away, and just
the Carlyle Group, the AIG insurance scams, the reinsurance scams for AIG, which insured Larry Silverstein for the towers and gave him the $5 billion for profit.
Yeah, and I always tell people, just always remember, no plane hit Building 7. None. It just suddenly collapsed.
That Al Qaeda loves you looking into this, and they cherish this. And then she's saying that she comes out, the Cybertruck bombing happens, she's saying that, the rise in domestic terrorism, that's the biggest threat we face in 2025. And then on day one, New Year's Eve, we have this Cybertruck bombing, and they're trying to label all the anti-gravity researchers domestic terrorists. That's what I see in all this. And then they don't say a peep about any of the anti-gravity stuff. It's all swept under the rugs, but they're telling everybody all this propaganda about 9/11 and Al Qaeda and the rise of radicalization of just people doing research and waking up to the friggin' truth.
Well, for sure, the government will lie to us to get to force down our throats whatever they want to do. Remember, weapons of mass destruction. How much did we spend in the Middle East? And what I always think about is, are any of those countries any better off than before we did all of that? I don't think so. And I think some of their citizens would agree with me. They're not better off. We destroyed whole countries, and then we give them some money to rebuild. And look at Afghanistan now. The Taliban. We wasted how many human lives and billions, trillions of dollars, and now the Taliban are back in control, just as they were before we did all that.
And it's wild because the Taliban, right before we went over there, and they had outlawed the opium production trade.
Oh yeah, and then as soon as we got there, it was like, you could grow as much opium as you want.
Yep. And now they don't need the opium anymore because they have fentanyl from China.
Yeah.
So like they just bailed on Afghanistan and let the Taliban take it back.
Yeah, and take, what was it, $80 billion,
and took all those weapons
hardware
and helicopters and guns they left behind. And they're like, oh no, the terrorists are more armed than they were when we started this.
Well, the good news is that a lot of the weapons that we left behind are super high tech, and they're not going to have the ability. They're kind of in the Stone Age over there. They're not going to have the ability to maintain any of them, so they're not going to have them long. And probably half of that hardware is already rotting somewhere in a desert. But still, why would you leave that behind? It makes no sense. You could fly it right over to Pakistan or some neighboring country and then fuel it up and get it out of there. But that's our wasteful government, right? We'll just buy more bombs and buy more Black Hawk helicopters and F-16s.
They're profiting off of our tax dollars to do all this. So
sure.
Well, Stephen, we're at 2-hour mark, and we've covered a lot of different stuff. Guys, chat. Viewers who are watching this not live, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think. I would love to hear your opinions about the show. Did we get it right? Did we get something wrong? Either way, leave us a comment, and we don't have to all agree on everything here, and we're just trying to bounce ideas around. And if we're all in an echo chamber, grifting and following grifters and never questioning anything, we're never going to get anywhere. So I agree. We have to address these so-called trolls and these skeptics and these shills and all that, because you never know. I invite Mick West on the channel. I invite all these trolls, these shills on the channel.
I've invited Mick West 10 times, and he basically told me that I'm too harsh to the true believers, and he doesn't want to be on my show. So I go, okay.
Yeah.
But my
No, you do get a little bit harsh on people, and that's why I
yeah,
wanted
but
to,
I think, well, they would deserve it. I think really the people that I'm very harsh with, I always think like I don't have like a you know any kind of obligation to be nice to people that are scamming people. So it's usually the people that were for sure are scamming people that I'm harshest with. I just
yeah.
don't like people make, especially you've seen these
Well,
guys,
yeah, when
people
someone
making
gets
millions of
$500
dollars.
super chat to go and fight these trolls who they won't name, and he's basically citing lies as his evidence against, you know, what, and everything he said is false, then that and people are giving him $500 for that's kind of, you know, that's
Yeah, well,
nonsense,
that's
man.
why he does it. He's got to have some kind of material to make, and he's always trying to make people feel sorry for him. You know, I only made
Mhm.
$258,000 last year, and it was barely
Yeah.
enough to survive.
Well, yeah, I would love to get David on the show. Anyone from Stavatti Aerospace that has revelatory information on anti-gravity technology, we'd love to have them on and talk to them.
Sure, I
And
would do that.
you know, you have lovers and you have haters. You know,
Do
there's
you know
people
who
that
I did? Do you know who I did have? I had that guy John Stewart on my show, who's been pumping that alien interview with the Victor guy. You know, and made a whole documentary, and that was interesting because I thought that was going to be a shit show, and everybody loved it because it got real spicy, but we were friendly anyway, you know.
yeah.
And he was at least willing to debate. And you know, my point with that thing is like, you for sure got a verified convicted child predator, a guy who was convicted of defrauding all these grandmoms out of their life savings, and other UFO grifters with criminal backgrounds. We've got a fake image analyst. That's who made that video and who was involved with it. So for me, I check out pretty quickly. That, and in some of the frames, you see that the puppet has a t-shirt sleeve that's empty, and that's supposed to be an arm. So, you know, sometimes the stuff is like, I'm sure you've seen stuff where you just say, this is not even worth my time to look into any further. Like, you
Well,
know,
yeah, I don't usually cover some of this stuff, but you know, again, I have you on to, you know, just to give an alternate opinion, and we don't have to agree on everything. And
sure.
yeah, debating ideas and evidence is the way. And you know, it's a true sign of, you know, authenticity and character when these guys can go on a show like mine or yours and handle like a
Yeah, I
skeptic,
got a
you
lot
know?
more respect for them
I get a
when
lot
they
more
actually.
respect for them when they do that, and I have no respect for the people that like will do these dirty tactics to, you know, to lie about, you know, what we've said, not use our names. Like I've seen Jeremy Corbell numerous times, you know, tell his audience about the skeptics and these trolls, and I know he's talking about me to the
Yeah,
audience, but he will
exactly.
not
But he
name
doesn't
me.
want to name you. You know why? Because he's afraid that they'll come find your channel and hear what you have to say. He's
Yeah,
terrified of that. Same with me and David Wilcock. He's called me Stephen from Canada. He keeps telling people I'm a kid, which I think that's just an attempt to, like, you know, I don't know, degrade me somehow, or act like I'm not important. I'm like, I'm a grown man, dude, with a wife and children. Like, I'm not a kid. He keeps referring to me this Steve kid or whatever, and he won't say
yeah.
my full name because I'm sure he's afraid that they're going to come and see the evidence. And if nothing else with Wilcock, we've gotten the receipts. You know, we've
Yeah, I
definitely got.
mean that you went and FOIA'd the video from the officers of everything he said happened
Yeah,
and the
that was
phone calls
great.
and everything.
I
Yeah,
couldn't believe when I got it, Jeremy. This chatty Cathy at Boulder County Sheriff's Office, God
yeah,
bless her, because I didn't even know there was body cams. She's like, "Oh yeah, there's body cams. I could get you the body cam footage," you know. And I was just like, "You're kidding." And then we got it, and it was just a laugh riot showing everybody that, because, you know, and here we do try to be a public benefit. Like in my video section there, you'll see there's a 10-hour long video detailing all the evidence of Ross Coulthart's history of selling fake stories.
oh,
We've
you
got
got one on my guest for tomorrow night too, 11-hour deep dive on Ashton. So
yeah, and that, if somebody's looking for the debunks, they're all in that as well. So,
well,
and we've got some free documentaries as well. I'm hoping to have a few more done this year. So we try to be a public benefit, and I have sort of the PBS model. You know, we're just viewer supported, so people throw a couple bucks in our hat and keep us honest. And but I am doing something called Grift Month. Have you heard about this? some month during this year, Jeremy, I'm going to grift for a full month, and I'm going to put out all kinds of fake shit and fake videos and Bigfoot videos and UFO videos, alien videos, and we're going to do it for a full on month, and then I'm going to spreadsheet how much money we made, and then we're going to do a big reveal and show everybody how we faked each of the fake videos. And I'm hoping
that'd be great. Just put out nonsense stuff on, you know, all the Bob Lazar, all the same whistleblower stuff. Make like a pro channel, and just to see. I'd like to see.
This social experiment
for awareness, man. Just to see. Wow, yeah, that would be a great idea. You have to get a voice actor or some way to change your voice so people wouldn't catch on.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting.
Then we're going to give whatever money I make grifting, we're going to give it to charity. We'll pick a few different worthy charities and just give the grift money to them, because it might be substantial. Of course, I think it's going to depress me, because I'm betting that I can make more money grifting in a month than my show makes in a full year or two. Probably.
Don't give money to Mick West, though, please. That guy does not deserve money.
I don't know. I like him, but I do think that he's too quick sometimes to judge.
I think he's just on an agenda, and he has a super bias that he wants to, you know, exert his intellectual superiority over everyone and be right about everything. And he will not second guess stuff that he's been wrong about or admit when he's wrong.
Well, nobody can be right every time, so I'm sure he's
but I mean, when I'm wrong and people, you know, point it out, I at least, you know, can admit
you got to acknowledge it. Yeah,
and I don't just hide behind it. And, you know, anyways, we can agree to disagree. So that's what brings us all closer to the truth, is actually questioning things and getting other opinions that you may not agree with right away. You may not, you know, and also exploring, you know, somebody tells you something about, you know, you investigate it, you know. So I
try to do that. I know you try to do that
about you. And I wanted to bring you on to give you a chance to respond. And I think you did an excellent job, Stephen. I'm really, I really hope that some of the David Wilcock's crowd followed me over here from the live chat and got a load of this information, because they probably think you're Steve from Canada and that you're a little kid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I'm betting that Wilcock is just bluffing to his audience. It's just theater, something to make them feel sorry for him. He's under terrorist threat. Send me money. These terrible trolls are destroying my business. Send me money.
Well, this is what, you know, Ross Coulthart's saying too, is that all these people are trolls and that there's an army, and he thinks that they work for the intelligence community to discredit all the truth that's coming out. And I'm like, you know, like I see most of these people that they call the trolls, and like I know most of these channels, I know they're at least real people and not like bot accounts and stuff. So
yeah,
I really
you know what I always say is that someday I'm going to write a book, and it's going to be called The Real UFO Cover-Up They Don't Want You to Know About. And people might buy the book thinking like, oh, we're gonna you know, read all about the government cover-up that they don't want us to know about. But the real cover-up is that there's just an influx, there's just an overabundance, there's just a multitude of grifters in the UFO community that constantly keep getting caught selling fake shit over and over and over again, and there's never any consequences. That's the real cover-up. You know, we don't police, this community does not police its own. If they did, Ross would have been done with the first fake story he put out. So would Coulthart, so would Corbell or Linda Moulton Howe or David Wilcock or Corey Good. And there's never any consequences. They just move on to the next grift. I think it's because there's constantly an influx of new people coming in that aren't aware that they've been caught selling fake stories before. So I'm real big on trying to document everybody's history.
Well, 87% of our audience in the live chat, went to 88% now, said I should be more harsh on the grifters. Only 12% of you think I'm already too harsh. So,
well, take their advice, Jeremy. You used to be kind of, I think that you've mellowed out. When I first met you, I think you were much more aggressive about that. But then you maybe you reached a point where I did, like recently in the past few months, I said, I have been too harsh on many people, and I'm going to try to start building bridges instead of burning them all. Because, you know, if I could get somebody on my show,
there's so much disinformation out there. There's so many fake stories and so many grifters, and then there's so many people that, you know, are just trying to look for the truth that cover this stuff because it's what's out there that you don't know. People are like, oh, do I trust Jesse Michaels? Do I trust? Are all these people in on it? Is everyone And then it's like you find yourself at just accusing everybody and their mother of being in on the conspiracy, and that's
not healthy either.
That's
Yeah,
not healthy.
you're right.
So yeah, we have to be harsh on the grifters and each other on our investigative techniques and stuff. But yeah, I gave up on Bob because it's like, dude, I make these videos doing these 2-hour deep dives into the whole history of the Bob Lazar story and the real evidence and documentation and going over, everything Corbell's gotten wrong and said wrong, and nobody cares. Nobody watches it. So it's like, I gave up.
Just so you know, though, I just did a show. It's called Kino Casino. They have a huge audience, and they asked me to come and debunk Bob Lazar. And just so you're aware, somebody accused me of stealing all of your research and taking credit for it. And I was like, did you watch the show? And they said, no. And I said, well, why are you accusing me of stealing research? Because I mentioned Jeremy Rye's alien scientist in that broadcast and gave his website. Like, what's the issue here? But I don't know,
I don't know. It might have been, Dan also, thought that you stole his research and stuff too, and didn't give him credit too. So I know that.
Yeah, but in the one case, he said that I stole his debunk of that anonymous guy and didn't give him credit. And I showed that in the video, I verbally credited him. In the description of the video, I credited him. He told me I could use it. So I try to always provide the sources. And so for that broadcast that I did for that other show, I cited everybody that I took something from: Michael Schratt, you, Signals Intelligence, and whoever else that I took something from.
Victor has a lot of good research too.
Yeah, Victor Caliero, I cited him. Yep. And so, I don't see the issue if you cite the sources, it's fine, but I understand if people, and as far as Dan goes, show me what research that I ever stole, and I'll apologize. He's never been able to do that because I don't think we're good.
Dan had a real bad accident at work, and they had him on a lot of medication for a while.
I know he freaked out on me a few times, and I forgave him. Like, I hope he's doing well.
Project Gravator coming out. Speaking of Bob Lazar, this was supposed to release in like October of last year, and it hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, this is going to be another fluff piece.
Interesting. I got Gene Huff to get in contact with the producers of this, and Gene Huff is going to appear in this new documentary apparently that's coming out. So
that should be interesting. That should be interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of think that someday Gene Huff will get pissed off enough to reveal the whole grift and how he was in on it.
I hope so. I always think that, and I'm waiting. But Gene's like, I've tried to ask him, and I have gotten like really good friends with him, and talking about all kinds of cool stuff, and he still is adamant that Bob was the real deal, and there's no skepticism in his mind though.
So it's unfortunate.
It's interesting. Anyways, yeah. Again, let's not get ourselves right. It's just like Wilcock is not coming in within 500 miles of Steven either.
Yeah. I would think that Wilcock would have learned something. Like, me releasing those Corey Good depositions pretty much wrecked his entire grift. So like, maybe I'm not a person that you should be going after. All I'm doing is. And really, if he's a public figure and all I'm doing is taking statements he made and then fact checking him, a reasonable person would say there's nothing wrong with that. So, I don't know. I think he sees that his audience is dwindling, and he's only got until May to grift off of this angel garbage. And then when open alien contact and the first waves of ascension doesn't happen by May of 2025, like he's repeatedly said the angel told him it would.
Yeah.
He's going to be screwed, and he's going to need a new grip.
Telling us about the thousands of sealed indictments and incoming
arrests. The mass arrest. We have a video we have like a 20-minute video of him saying mass arrests are coming, and we dated them all.
Well, beware false prophets, and you may know them by their fruits.
Absolutely.
So, I'm predicting a lot of great things happening this year. I don't know about you, but I look forward to more debates like this. I look forward to you getting on other people's podcasts. If you don't agree with my guest, get them on your podcast. I would love to.
Sure,
I'll be watching it for sure. If you get Steven on, because we've had some great debates. We've had some.
We've had some fun
guests.
adventures. The whole third phase thing and stuff, that was funny, and a lot of this Bob Lazar debunking stuff, and yeah, it's been good to know you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, Steven, and have a
Sure,
great
my
night.
pleasure.
And sorry for the audience for not being hard enough on my guests.
All right, you have a good night, and yeah, we'll be in touch.
Take care.
Thanks.
And